Hi everyone, Crista Cowan here with another episode of The Barefoot Genealogist. It is time for our monthly edition of What's New at Ancestry. This is for August 2017. If you've never joined us for a What's New episode before, we're going to quickly cover some of the upcoming genealogical conferences and events and give you some tips about where to find more information. And then we will go through some of the new content provided on Ancestry throughout the past month. Let's go ahead and dive in, starting directly with events. These are the upcoming events for the remainder of 2017. Now, these are not every genealogical event happening everywhere, but these are some of the events that Ancestry will be attending, meaning we will have likely a booth in the exhibit hall and speakers chosen from among our staff, genealogists, and others who will be presenting at the conferences. The Federation of Genealogical Societies annual conference is coming up the 30th of August through the 2nd of September. That's in just a few weeks. It's going to be in Pittsburgh this year. You can find out more at fgsconference.org. Now, this is one of those conferences that rotates cities every year. So if Pittsburgh is not convenient for you, go ahead and go to their website. You'll see some information about where their conferences will be coming up in 2019, and then as 2020's annual, or 18 and then 19, and then as 2020's annual conference comes up, you'll have information there as well, so you can plan accordingly. FGS is an organization for other genealogical societies to be a member of, and so there's a lot of information about running a society, about being part of a society, but there's also some excellent information provided at this conference about genealogy methodology, about records around the world, and of course, because it's in Pittsburgh, there will be a special focus on Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania area research. Ancestry also attends a few non-genealogical specific events every year. This year we will be attending the Pinners Conference. This is a conference for all things Pinterest, and it will be held in Dallas, Texas, the 29th and 30th of September. You can learn more at pinnersconference.com. Again, Ancestry will have a booth in the exhibit hall there. This is not a traditional genealogy conference, so there are tons of ideas about other things Pinterest related, cooking and crafts and so on. But you might be surprised at some of the tips you'll get for family history. Family history is not just genealogy research. It also is, has to do with photographs and photo albums and tracking down individuals who are related to you to help build the family story, learning about history. All of these are things that you can learn more about at the Pinners Conference in Dallas this year. And then for our international friends in Dublin this year, Back to Our Past, that's the big genealogy and family history conference they hold there, will be the 20th through the 22nd of October. Ancestry actually has an office in Dublin. Many of our Dublin employees, some of our London employees, maybe even some of our employees from Sweden and Germany may be in attendance at that particular event. Again, that's the 20th through the 22nd of October in Dublin. Now, as I said, these are just the events that Ancestry will have a presence at. We do occasionally send speakers and door prizes to other events throughout the world. You can go to conferencekeeper.org. This is not an Ancestry affiliated site, but it is run by some in the genealogy community who are just keeping track of local and more regional family history events that might be more accessible to you. And if you're new to family history, dipping your toe in those waters is certainly recommended. Now, here is just a quick look ahead at 2018. I know it might seem a little premature to be discussing this already, but some of you are maybe anxious to attend a genealogy conference and need a little bit more advanced warning or planning opportunities. In particular, I want to highlight the couple of things. Roots Tech, which is the largest genealogy conference in the world, is coming up in Salt Lake the 28th through the 3rd of March. Now, the reason I want to make special note of this is because this past week, they opened up the hotels in Salt Lake with the conference rate. So if you just do a quick internet search for Roots Tech 2018, you'll get a link there on their page to the local hotels that are offering a conference rate. Now, those do sell out. So that doesn't mean you can't come and you can't stay. It just means that the blocks of rooms that they have at the local hotels available at this discounted rate for the conference will go quickly. So if you are thinking about coming or interested in coming to Roots Tech, even if you haven't made up your mind yet, you might want to just go and reserve a room so that you've got that reserved at that conference rate. And then if you, for whatever reason, decide you can't come, you can cancel that later. Or if you can come, then yay, you've already got a room reserved. NGS will be in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Again, that's one of those conferences that rotates cities every year. SoCal Jamboree is the second major thing, a difference or change I want to point out. It is going to be held a little bit earlier this year. Typically, it's been the second weekend of June. They've now moved it up. It will be the 31st of May through the 3rd of June. And that's a little bit of a shorter time frame as well. Usually that conference runs Friday through Sunday with a bonus day on Thursday. They're still doing that bonus day on Thursday, the 31st of May. That's going to be their DNA conference, just like it always has been, but then they've added an additional track on that bonus day, and it's going to be for family history writing. So I'm excited to see this new track or this new set of workshops and classes on that Thursday. And then they have shortened the conference to be just Friday and Saturday, I believe. So again, that's the Southern California Genealogy Jamboree, and then they've moved it up to that first weekend of June. So just a little change there to make you aware of. The International Association of Jewish Genealogical Societies annual conference will be in Warsaw, Poland, and I was just at their international conference in Orlando a couple of weeks ago. And they announced the dates for that conference will now be the 6th through the 10th of August. And then the Federation of Genealogical Societies annual conference this coming year in 2018 will be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne, of course, is home to the second largest genealogical library in the world, and so I'm always excited to head to Fort Wayne. Well, that is the upcoming events. I hope you'll take a look at some of those and see if some of them work into your schedule. I attend almost all of these events, so if you're ever at a genealogical event, please do come find me. I love to meet you and hear about the things that you're working on in your family history. Let's talk briefly as we wrap up here about content highlights. So some of the content released on Ancestry in the past month. We put about 15 million plus new records online over the course of the last month. Of course, we also announced earlier this week that we now have 5 million people who have DNA tested. So there's always new stuff to discover, new connections to discover, new records to discover on Ancestry, which I just think is fantastic and exciting. And I certainly, it never gets old. You'd think it would, as much time as I spend on genealogy, but it doesn't. So if you've never joined us for a What's New episode before, or you're not familiar with the card catalog, let me just give you a quick tutorial. If you click on search and go to card catalog, that is a listing of all of the databases of records available on Ancestry. And then if you just sort it by date added, it'll put all of the new stuff at the top of the list so that you can keep up with what's new. On any one of those databases, you can just move your mouse to hover over the database. It'll pop up a little card that'll tell you exactly when Ancestry put this particular record collection online. And then if you click on that, you can open up the database and search the specific database. Before you do that, I always encourage people to scroll past the search box and be sure to read the database description and the source information. That will tell you where Ancestry obtained these records from, which is important because you might want to go back and see if they have additional records that relate to this collection, see if they have other information, see if you can get your hands on any original documents or copies of originals. Also check to see this browse box. If there's a browse box, what that typically means is Ancestry was able to obtain the records themselves from the particular organization. If there is no browse box, that means you will need this source information to contact the archive to request copies of the original records. Then below that source information, you're going to see database descriptions. Sometimes, like in this case, they're very brief. Sometimes they're a little bit more descriptive. This is information that we put together in conjunction with the archive who provided the records, and it gives some details about what's in the records, what areas it covers, what any exclusions might be, what to look for. Sometimes we'll give you additional tips about what to do next with the information you found in those records. So card catalog is your great resource to see what we have available online. If you've never used the card catalog, if you go to our Ancestry YouTube channel, which is where you're watching this video, you can see a complete listing of our desktop education courses. Excuse me. And I do believe I have one there that is a complete course about how to use the card catalog, how to search it. I encourage you to go watch that. Now, let's talk about some of the content highlights this past month. First up, we have the Ireland Sustainability Loan Fund, and this is records from 1821 through 1874. We've got a quick glimpse of that a minute ago. These are records that were obtained from the National Archives in England, and they have to do with, if you read the database description, records of loans that were provided to the industrious poor in Ireland during this time period. So there was money collected into a fund, and then that money was distributed. And so what you're going to see if you browse this collection, you'll see a few things. First of all, we've got some different record types in this single database. And then within each record type, we have specific counties. So it's not all of Ireland, it is specific counties. And then within each county, there are different pieces, or in this case, probably different kinds of ledgers or books. So we've got minutes of the fund with information about the trustees. The biggest thing for those of you who are researching Irish ancestors are going to be the loan ledgers, the cash books of repayments. So you're going to see information about who owed what, when and how they repaid it. All of this is super great information for genealogists. It's a type of record that might not be considered an obvious record, but for those of us who have done Irish research, we know that Irish records are very difficult to come by for a variety of reasons. And so anytime there are records available, we're going to use them to piece together information about families and their history, because we'll take what we can get. Now that's true, of course, in a lot of places in the world, but Ireland is particularly unique because of some massive record loss and because of some difficulties in obtaining records. So really great collection, about a 250,000 records, I think, in this particular collection. So that's exciting to see those records come online. The next record collection, I believe it has about 1.8 million records in it, is the New York City Death Index for the years 1949 through 1965. So this is really exciting to have these records available, because a lot of us have New York research that we do on a regular basis, and to be able to access records, more recent records, is quite the big deal. New York records in particular have historically been a little bit difficult to obtain, and so the fact that these have been made available is fantastic. Also, the fact that we've got more current records. I've been working with a lot of young people lately, and one of the things that we've discovered is that being able to get them back to that 1940 census, which is the first publicly available census in the United States, is sometimes a little bit difficult, because they may or may not know who their grandparents were, may or may not know grandma's maiden name, even if they do know her first name, may not know, there's lots of holes or gaps in some of the knowledge of some of the people coming into genealogy. So the more recent records we can get, the better. The other benefit of recent records is for those of us who are doing DNA research, when we are trying to figure out the connection between us and a DNA match, having more recent records is really, really helpful in that particular kind of research. So we've got these New York death records. Now it is just an index. I just want to point that out. So you will see a browse box over here, and that will take you to a set of images, but that set of images, as you'll see here, is just an index, meaning that's all that the state of New York was willing to make available to us. And so this is simply just going to list the name of the deceased, their age at death, and the date of death. And then you'll have a certificate number, and that certificate number is what you're going to need to use in order to get a copy of the original death record. One of the things you'll also notice here, though, is that there's an ME number, a medical examiner's number, that will give you access to additional information. And so, again, wherever possible, always try to get your hands on the original record, because there's going to be more information in that record than is provided in the index. So that's the New York Death Index. Now, the big record collection that Ancestry put online this month is the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps registries. There are 10 million records, more than 10 million records in this single collection. It goes from 1814, excuse me, it goes from 1814 through 1992. So it covers this huge period of time. And of course, these records are really valuable for anyone who served in the Navy or Marine Corps. The registries, if you look here, are broken out in the browse by the particular type of record and by the particular corps or group that they served in. And then within that, it's broken out by year. So it's worth it. Whenever I encounter a new record collection on Ancestry, I always spend just a few minutes looking at the browse so that I can understand how the records are organized. One of the reasons that's important is because in a collection like this, one of your ancestors or relatives might be mentioned multiple times. And so understanding how the records are organized helps you understand when you get different search results for the same person, what it is that you're looking at or what kinds of things you might be discovering as you do your searches. You can, of course, then go directly to the records and browse them, but I always encourage people to just search, and that will take you to your search results where you can then learn more about these individuals. Now, the majority of these records are in typewritten form, so they're really clean and easy to read. However, one of the things that you'll notice is that sometimes you'll land on a page where there's no header, and so you can always go forward or backward a page or two in order to discover what the heading information is for any of the columns that you happen to be viewing. And then you can jump back to the page of the person that you were on. So it just kind of depends on how the book was originally put together, if the headers are on that particular image that you're viewing at the moment or not. So just a little tip, sometimes you have to go forward or backward a couple of pages in order to understand what it is that you're looking at. So again, 10 million of those records. Now, Ancestry also put online this past month a lot of German vital records. Now, vital records are birth, marriage, and death records. Germany became a nation state in 1871. So before that, it was not a cohesive country. So in 1876 is when the vital records started being kept, and they were kept individually throughout the country in as a local record. So one of the things you'll notice is that most of these record collections start in 1876, and then each state is in control of their own privacy or their own, they control what is made available and what is not. So you'll notice that the ending dates on these record collections vary depending on what region you're looking at. So those dates will be, sometimes a little bit more recent, sometimes a little bit more in the past. It just kind of depends. And then they are each individual databases based on the specific location. So be sure to look through that list. A really quick and easy way to do that is to just come over here in the card catalog, type in Germany, then all you'll be looking at on the list is records from Germany, and you can quickly look through to see the different regions or areas of the country, which means you need to know where your family lived. That's an important part of genealogical research. It's not enough just to know they came from Germany or they came from Russia or they came from Ireland. Sometimes you need to dig into U.S. records a little bit more so that you know exactly where in Germany or where in Ireland or where in Russia your family lived before you can be successful in researching further into the records of the particular country. So that's a really important distinction, and we're excited that those records are coming online. Last but certainly not least, Ancestry has obtained another collection of records from the U.S. Virgin Islands and our agreement with the archive there. In particular, these are slave and free people of color records. They date from 1779 to 1921. This is a complementary record set. You'll see these related data collections here. Ancestry has obtained Virgin Island records previously. We had obtained slave, plantation, and townhead tax lists. And we've also obtained some census records from the period of time when they were when it was the Danish West Indies. And so we have complementary record collections. Always look for that whenever you're on a database page. If you scroll just below the browse box, you're going to see related data collections. That's important because, again, it helps you understand what other records are available that might also have your family members from that particular location. Again, the browse box tells you Ancestry has images of some type, and in this case, this single record collection has a lot of different record types. So be sure to look through those so that you understand what all the opportunities are for doing research in the records of your family. Well, that is all I have prepared for you today. Hopefully you've got some plans made to come to a genealogical event or presentation or conference in the coming months. And as I mentioned, I would love to meet you. Please do find me if you're at one of the events where Ancestry is in attendance. And we continue to add a lot of really great new content online. I'm super excited about digging into some of those databases to do some of my own research and some research for some other projects that I'm working on. I would love to hear what other topics you would like to have presented or discussed in the coming weeks. So I've gotten away a little bit from putting out a calendar ahead of time, but I am going to get back in the habit of doing that. So on the Ancestry Facebook page on the events, we're going to start populating some of the topics for these video trainings in the coming months. And so if you have suggestions about things you'd like me to cover, you can email me at ask@ancestry.com with those suggestions. I will look through those and get them added to our roster as applicable, and then get that schedule on our Facebook page updated. Until next time, this is Crista Cowan. Have fun climbing your family tree.